What if I told you there's a town where you can change countries by walking to your mailbox? Where do you need a passport to go from your kitchen to your living room? Where pizza delivery drivers need international shipping licenses to cross the street? Most people think borders are simple lines on maps. But I'm about to show you a place where medieval nobles got so fed up with fighting that they created the most geographically impossible town on Earth. We're talking about a place where restaurants serve Belgian beer at tables in Belgium and Dutch cheese at tables in the Netherlands, in the same building. But here's what's absolutely insane. This isn't some ancient curiosity that got fixed over time. In 1995, the European Union accidentally made this mess 10 times worse, and people literally woke up to discover their daily routines now involved crossing international borders dozens of times per day. Today, we're diving into the most impossible border situation on Earth, a place that proves sometimes the solution to a problem is to make it so complicated that everyone just gives up trying to fix it. The geographical impossibility. Welcome to Barl, or should I say, welcome to Barls, because these are actually two towns with the same name that exist inside each other, like the world's most complicated Russian nesting doll. We've got Barley-Nassau, which is Dutch, and Barley-Hertog, which is Belgian. But here's where your brain starts to hurt. There are 22 Belgian enclaves completely surrounded by the Netherlands, and 8 Dutch counter-enclaves inside those Belgian enclaves. To put this in perspective, there are over 5,000 border markers in an area smaller than most shopping malls. You literally cannot walk in a straight line for more than 50 meters without crossing an international border. But here's where it gets really ridiculous. Some houses are split right down the middle by the border. We're talking about front doors in the Netherlands and back doors in Belgium, bedrooms in one country, bathrooms in another. The medieval mess that started it all. So how did this geographical nightmare begin? Well, it all started in the 12th century when the Duke of Brabant and the Lord of Breda got tired of fighting wars over land and decided to try something completely different: sharing. Instead of drawing a simple border like normal people, these medieval nobles created the world's first and most complicated land sharing agreement. They basically said, you can have this field, I'll take that village. You keep those farms, I'll take that forest. The result was a patchwork of territories that looked like someone had thrown a map in a blender and tried to put it back together while blindfolded. But here's the thing, it actually worked. For 800 years, this system prevented wars and kept the peace. The problem is, medieval nobles didn't think about things like modern nation-states, international law, or the European Union. They just wanted to stop fighting over who owned which cow pasture. The 1995 overnight disaster. Fast forward to 1995, and the European Union decides to implement the Schengen Agreement, open borders across Europe. Sounds great, right? Well, nobody told the EU bureaucrats about Barl's medieval border situation. Suddenly, EU lawyers had to figure out which European laws applied where, and they realized nobody actually knew where the borders were with modern precision. The medieval agreements were based on things like the big oak tree and where the old farmer's fence used to be. So they had to conduct the most expensive and complicated border survey in European history. Teams of surveyors spent months measuring every single border marker, creating digital maps, and trying to translate 800-year-old land agreements into modern legal language. But here's where people literally woke up in different countries. The new precise measurements revealed that some border markers had been in the wrong places for decades. Houses that thought they were Dutch were actually Belgian. Businesses that had been paying Dutch taxes suddenly owed money to Belgium. The daily life absurdity. So what's it actually like to live in this geographical nightmare? Well, let's start with restaurants. There's a cafe in Barl where you can order Belgian beer at a table in Belgium and Dutch cheese at a table in the Netherlands, and they're 3 feet apart. The border literally runs through the middle of the dining room, marked by a line on the floor. During COVID-19, this became a nightmare because Belgium and the Netherlands had different lockdown rules. Some tables were legally open while others were legally closed. But restaurants are nothing compared to the housing situation. There are houses where the front door is in the Netherlands, but the bedroom is in Belgium. Families have to decide which country they officially live in based on where their front door is located. And here's my favorite part. There are streets where all the odd-numbered houses are Dutch and all the even-numbered houses are Belgian. Imagine explaining that to your GPS. The postal system has completely given up trying to make sense of it. Some houses have 2 addresses in 2 different countries, And mail carriers need international shipping licenses to deliver letters across the street. The bureaucratic nightmare. Now let's talk about the bureaucratic hell that is governing this place. We've got Dutch police, Belgian police, Dutch tax collectors, Belgian tax collectors, and nobody's entirely sure who has jurisdiction where. If you commit a crime in Barl, the police have to figure out which country's laws apply based on exactly where you were standing. There have been cases where criminals literally stepped across the border mid-crime to confuse the legal system. Emergency services are even more complicated. If you have a heart attack in Barl, the ambulance crew has to determine which country's medical system applies before they can treat you. Some houses have agreements with both Dutch and Belgian emergency services just to be safe. And don't even get me started on taxes. Some businesses pay taxes to both countries just to avoid the paperwork nightmare of figuring out which one they actually owe money to. It's cheaper to pay twice than to hire the lawyers needed to determine your actual tax obligation. The pizza delivery international incident. But my absolute favorite example of how ridiculous this situation has become is pizza delivery. Pizza delivery drivers in Barl technically need international shipping licenses to deliver across the street because they're crossing international borders. Some pizza places have given up delivering to certain addresses because the international shipping paperwork costs more than the pizza. Imagine calling for pizza and being told, "Sorry, we don't deliver to Belgium, but we can meet you at the border." During the height of COVID-19, this became even more absurd. Pizza delivery was considered essential international trade in some cases, while families couldn't visit relatives living 50 meters away because they were in a different country with different lockdown rules. The modern tourist attraction. Here's the beautiful irony of this whole situation. Barl has embraced the chaos and turned it into a tourist attraction. People come from around the world to experience the most complicated border situation on Earth. You can take guided tours that involve crossing international borders dozens of times in a single afternoon. There are restaurants that advertise international dining experiences, where you can eat in 2 countries without leaving your table. The town has even created special border marker souvenirs and "I crossed 47 international borders today" t-shirts. They've turned their geographical nightmare into their greatest economic asset. And here's the best part. Both the Dutch and Belgian governments have officially given up trying to fix the border situation. It's been declared a unique cultural heritage site that must be preserved exactly as it is. So there you have it. The town that accidentally moved countries overnight and then decided to move countries every few meters just to make things interesting. Barley proves that sometimes the best solution to a complicated problem is to make it so ridiculously complicated that it becomes a tourist attraction. What do you think? Would you want to live in a place where going to the grocery store is an international expedition? Or does this sound like your personal bureaucratic hell? Let me know in the comments and subscribe to Earthwise for more geography that proves our world is far weirder than any fiction writer could imagine.